We are live.
There we
I don't
go.
know if Wilson's joining us tonight. I don't think we ever
Yeah, he
heard
didn't
from
say
him, did
anything.
we?
Yeah, he didn't say anything.
Yeah, usually I hear from I put a message on our Facebook group that says who's up for a show this week, and
Hmm.
usually Wilson always says yay or nay. I mean, usually it's yay, but didn't hear from him
Hmm.
at all this week. So I wonder what's going on.
Right.
So check his
You,
Facebook page, see if something
yeah.
happened to him.
Tim was on about an hour ago.
Oh.
He did a show. He did the comics he picked up on his birthday last weekend.
Okay. He doesn't want Sunday mornings anymore?
He's trying to do Sunday morning because he wants me on at the same time as Eric Breen and Gore Vidal, so we can pretend to be intellectuals. Uh,
I once again I was watching Dolphins. Good evening, Tit Coblin. I was once again forced to write on. It was Tim and Eric Breen on last Sunday morning. I came in near the end, and once again to them, Marvel and DC were all comics. I was just like, remember, there's more to the comic world than Marvel and DC, but
yeah,
there's no
yeah,
getting through to people who do the whole comic world is Marvel and DC.
yeah. Yeah, sure. There's this Brazilian channel that I watch. It's
Uh-huh.
called Eurocomics. The guy's Brazilian, but he's one of the few people in Brazil who can speak French. So he
Ah,
interviews French creators,
okay.
and he only talks about European comics.
Ah, I just let's see. One of the comics I backed on Kickstarter just made its goal and took my money. Uh, good evening, Sleepy Reader. How are you tonight? But I got it was like $9 for a PDF of this. Which one was it? Let me see. So I got it written down here. I wrote, even though you can go on Kickstarter and see your pledges, I wrote it in my notebook too. But of course, now I don't remember which one it is. It's 3 books. It's Fantasma, Fantasima. It's 3 digital books I get for $9, and I think it's a not safe for work queer story. I think they um said they were. So that one actually went through. I don't think it's out until May, the digital one, but there's it's like I've got I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually backed the Megaverse card game. This just kind of on a whim. The Massive Verse. You know, the Radiant Black and
Hmm.
Rogue Sun and Universe. And I think there's a couple other things in it. They came out with like a card game for it, which for $38, I was like, you know what, that's a lot of. I was just feeling whimsical, so I backed it. It's not coming out till October though, so because I love games, I just never play them because I don't have any gaming friends.
Hmm.
All my gaming friends were at Marvel where I used to play them, but they're not around here.
I've never owned a console, and I've always had a computer that was old by the time I bought it. So there's no
Ah,
point in having games.
oh, when I mean gaming, I don't even mean video gaming. I mean
Mm.
uh,
RPGs.
other type. Yeah. What did we used to play? We used to play Magic the Gathering and Hero Clicks
Mm.
at lunchtime all the time at Marvel. Magic the Gathering in the 90s and Hero Clicks in the 2000s. Though I did just buy for the first, I did just yesterday bought it's not here yet, a Nintendo Switch, which is their gaming console that's a handheld that hooks up to your TV screen. I haven't had the last gaming console I bought was the Xbox 360. I think that was 15 years ago. I haven't had it on in a decade or so, but I was just kind of like, I just kind of feel like getting one. And I took second place in a football pool during
Okay.
the Super Bowl, so I had some money to buy it. Do you read all the Radiant Universe books? I only read, well, I've read different ones. I read Radiant Black regularly. I read Rogue Sun regularly. I think I was it Radiant Pink, I think was the miniseries. No, Radiant Red was the miniseries I bought. Radiant Pink, I only got the first issue of. And then there's another one in there that I got one issue of and can't remember what it is. Was there the game on the Switch that you were interested in? It's funny. They're retro games. I want to play Card Fighter Clash, which was on the Neo Geo Pocket, which you can get on the Switch now. I want to play, what is it? 1080 Snowboarding, which was on the N64, which is on the Switch now. And I got the Zelda version of the Switch, which I now realize after I got it, never said it comes with the latest Zelda game. I'm like, I think it. Why would it not come with the Zelda game? But I was looking for anywhere it said it came with the Zelda game, and it never said it. So I'm like, am I not going to get the Zelda game? My daughter just plays Mario Kart on the Switch. Oh, okay. And what actually put me over the edge too is there's a new model of the Switch called OLED, which is a new screen for it, brighter with more colors. And one of my students had one, which I got to see this week, and I was like, wow, it blew me away. Because I actually just recently also got, since I wanted to play retro games, this I just got 2 weeks ago, and because I didn't think I was going to get the Switch, I got one of these. Who makes this? Anbernic, and the Switch screen is about twice the size of this, so it's 4 of these screens. There's Wilson. So I got this one, which plays, ROMs, so you can play a whole bunch of retro. I was retro gaming on it, but the ROMs aren't nearly as good as the real thing. Some of them are fine, but like there was a version of what was it? 1080 Snowboarding that I wanted to play on this. It was just like And I was playing Card Fighter Clash, which is one of my favorite all-time games, on that. And I was like, I think I'm going to get this. After I saw my students Switch, I was like, this thing's really nice. I got the money. Why not get one? Because that's what I do when I'm buying something. Like I think I spent $300 on it, which is a lot of money for me. And I've been thinking about getting a Switch since about November. And often what happens, but I'm not rich. I have a hard time spending $300 on such an indulgence, even though I got it. Like I said, I got it in that football pool that. So what I do is I think about it. And then after about 4 months, I go, this is taking up too much of my thinking time. I'm just going to get one so I don't have to think about it anymore. And that's happened to me with various things in life where I'm like, you know what? I can't spend any more time thinking about it. Thinking about getting a Nintendo Switch. I got other things I'd rather think about. How are you doing tonight, Wilson?
I'm doing all right. I didn't realize the show had started. I was just working. And then I didn't get the notification because I realized that when Facebook and Meta had their hiccup the other day, it had signed me out of Messenger. So I didn't realize Messenger wasn't on. So at some point, I was like, oh, let me get a cup of coffee. The show should be starting soon. And I look and it's like, oh, the show started already.
I, like so many other people, thought I got hacked.
Yes.
On Tuesday. For those of you who don't know, there was a worldwide outage on Facebook I think it was Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. All of a sudden, Facebook kicked you off, said you have to sign in again. And you try to sign in again, and it says your password doesn't work. Reset your password. And you go to reset your password, and it says, sorry, an error happened. So I was like, did I get hacked? Then I went on, is it down? And they were like, nope. Facebook's down for everybody. Everybody thinks they got hacked.
Yeah, I thought I got hacked. I think I checked it on I either went to Twitter or on TikTok. One or two let me know.
Yeah, I checked out TikTok after that too.
Yeah.
Paulo, I had to do some statue sketching this week and chose Gaspar Corte Real because of his pose, says Tit Goblin. Tripped up and stubbed my toe at the base of it and ended up cursing your whole country loudly in a crowd.
Well, he's an ancestor of the current leader of the Animals and Nature Party. So a a an ecologist preppy. So it makes so you can curse him all you want.
Sleepy says he recently got an OLED television. Looks amazing. Suddenly I'm watching more movies. Yeah, that's the new thing. It looks really good on the Switch that I saw. I don't know why it's taking him a week to get me into it. Even his statue is a jerk.
Of course, well, statues are jerks. That's why pigeons crap on them.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
My LCS has a guest tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm not going. It's a French cartoonist called Pierre Mortel.
Okay,
but he's internet famous because
okay.
he created this meme, which I'm going to show right now. Maybe you've seen it around.
He's grinning already.
I think I may know what it is because the name is familiar.
Yeah. But this is famous as a meme.
Oh, I've never seen that one. It wasn't what I was thinking.
I think I have seen that one, but it's I haven't seen it that much.
Mm-hmm.
You will be spared is familiar. I've definitely seen that last panel.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
I like one is a two-headed one and one is missing a head.
No, the duck is what was the name of the duck? The duck has a name. Yeah.
The duck. Oh, that giant muscular duck.
Yeah, because the artist finally decided is going to do a story with the character. He's only been doing cartoons for the internet.
Right.
But now he's become internet famous, which means it's time to capitalize on that fame and actually launch a book that only 100 people will buy.
Because until you're internet famous, there's no point. But what was I just looking at? In one of the Kickstarters, I backed. I forget which one. Maybe it could have been that one I just told you about. But like I said, I spent $9 on the 3 books. I don't know how much the printed books were, but I was looking in it. I think it raised $55,000. That's a good amount. Yeah. And I think it had like 1,500 backers. I was like, you know what? That's not so many people. If you can raise, $55,000 from 1,500 backers, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Let's see what's the math on that. Let me open up my calculator. Well, it says my calculator's open, but I don't see any calculator. How come it won't show me it? There we go. 55, 1, 2, 3, divided by 1,500 equals, that's $37 a piece. It's like, you know what? You can do pretty well with only 1,500 fans on Kickstarter.
Yeah, you just need a from what I understand, you just need a devoted amount of people.
Right.
I forget what the number is. I think it's like 1,000. If you had 1,000 devoted fans that always picked up your books.
That's the 1,000 loyal fans idea. If you can get 1,000 loyal fans to spend $100 a year on whatever you're making, you're in good shape.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure what the math on it was, but that's what I heard about.
1,000 loyal fans. How to get those 1,000 loyal fans? Who knows?
I told you. You start a new YouTube channel, pick fights with other creators, and then people will come and watch the drama. There.
That's a totally rad shirt, Wilson.
Oh, this is my old Godzilla shirt. The Godzilla that's on here is from Godzilla 1984 5 when they re-released the newer movies, and it's on like a Japanese background. I don't wear it outside anymore because it's pretty old and kind of torn up, has some holes in the back, so it's kind of graduated to house shirt, night shirt kind of a thing. So that's the image for Godzilla.
And Sleepy Reader says 1,500 is pretty high, but it's not inconceivably high.
True, yeah.
Because I can remember the number, like in the 90s, in the late 90s, I remember them saying the number like that Terry Moore or Stan Sakai had was like 10,000 loyal fans. If you had an indie book or a self-published book that sold 10,000 copies, you were sitting pretty. They were sort of during the doom and gloom of the late 90s, they were sort of the most stable part of the comics industry. Is those indie guys who had 10,000 fans, their books were sailing right through all the bad times. So 1,500 isn't that bad a number when you think about it, even though it's a lot of people. Yeah. I'm not loyal enough to many creators to the tune of $100, maybe 30, but it's $100 over the year. So would you buy 3 $30 projects of your favorite creators? There's that sort of thing. It's not $100 all at once. That's the difference.
3 $30 projects per year.
Yeah, but you do it for your favorite creators, probably.
I demand at least 64 pages of story for that.
Okay.
And a hardcover.
Okay. You might have demands, yes. But I'm saying there's at least one guy, like Dean Haspiel. His one I'm still buying the physical copies of. I think it was $25. So I've spent $50 on Dean this year, and if he puts out 2 more things, I'll spend another $50 probably.
But you know, these projects they're also starting to have the smarts and marks. So the marks are the people who crowdfund.
Yeah.
The smarts who wait until the second book has been sold out on after the second book has been successfully crowdfunded. Then you buy the 2 books on sale on the Etsy store.
Once again, we're back to my Brooklyn Bridge theory of comic book fans. There's only suckers and assholes. That's all there is. Choose you're going to be one of them.
Yeah.
Better deal with it.
Instead of waiting for the trade, you wait for the Etsy.
Depending on the artist, I can be a sucker. So
Sleepy Reader says, I don't think I've backed multiple Kickstarters a year by one creator. Yeah, could be. You're not one of those 1,000 loyal fans. You're an expert.
If I had the money, I would be tempted to spend. If I had regularly the money for it, I would spend $150 if one of the perks was a random art page from the project.
I could see that. But then the artist would have no pages at the end of the project.
His problem. Well, it's up to him if he wants to.
That's why you're not getting it.
Yeah, but it's a. Well, it depends.
There's no original art to any of your projects. That's the part that can escalate in value for the artist.
Yeah,
I think $50 for a piece of original artwork might be a little too.
Here's the thing: there's no way for the artist to actually get stupid money from selling his art.
Only if you're Walter Simonson and never sell any of it.
Yeah, because you're the first to sell the art,
right?
And then it only goes up.
One of my sayings is artists are on the wrong end of the supply chain for escalating art prices. That's just kind of the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Sleepy says usually it's about $350 a page for art on a Kickstarter. Oh, okay.
I'm going to write that one down and keep that in mind.
Oh, here's something I don't think I've thought about before. That I was talking about on Sleepy's one of his comments this week when he was talking. He was reviewing the Savage Sword of Conan book that came out. He really liked it, but once again, he, like the rest of us, was like, the grayscale art wasn't done well. I mean, the grayscale portion of it wasn't done well. And he said something about how come don't these publishers look at their comics before they go out? And I'm like, no, they don't do that anymore, because back before digital, when you used to have to get a comic book to the printers a month or two before it was due on the press, there was time built in to proof everything. And I mean, Wilson certainly remembers, and he has a few, the proofs that got sent into Marvel for the books.
Yep.
So, proofs would come back to the office, and you'd fix any problems with the editor. You'd actually see a printed page of it. But nowadays, if you want to do that, almost all proofs are PDFs. You can still get physical proofs, but that means you have to get it in early, and it costs money to ship the proofs to you. It's like the closer you get to deadline, the more it costs to ship the proof. So if you want, I can remember, where did we use? When I was doing some stuff, some custom comics for Terry Kavanaugh, I think a printed proof was about $100. And 50 of that was them overnighting it to you. Which, if you could, do you remember? I remember hearing during Marvel's boom years in the early 90s sometime that they spent $1 million at FedEx. That was Marvel's, I think their peak expenditure at FedEx was $1 million in a year. Because they had to overnight things, all the artwork, go to this person. They were constantly overnighting it to get it to the artist to do the work, and also to get the proofs in. But what happened is, now that we can do there, for Bad Idea, there was some, I was delivering the print ready files the night before it went to press. So I was delivering them that night. The next morning, the printer would get up and prepare it for press. There was no time to get a printed proof. So now that publishers can get the files to the printer up until the very last minute, there's absolutely no time for printed proofs. It's almost no one does them. The proofs are always PDFs that you look through and make sure everything is okay. There's nothing in your hand. So Titan Comics, who published that Savage Sword, probably never saw a copy of it till it came off the press, the last one. That's just the way it's done now. Yeah, it's crazy.
When I send something out,
$1 million.
I send out a PDF. I feel like what I get back from the printers is the same PDF.
Yeah.
Because it looks all the same.
I sent you a PDF, you send me a PDF. What's the...
Yeah, so it's like, I just sent this to you, but I approved it the first time, but here you go. It's approved again. Yeah. I think I remember correctly, if as a small press printer, yes, you could request the proof from like Kablam, but it costs, I think, like $25 to get a proof, and most of that is the shipping cost. Right,
the shipping cost is the faster you want that proof to you, the more the shipping cost goes up. And if you don't plan for that, you're going to miss your print date.
And we all know publishers don't plan for anything correctly, because that's why everything's late. I've seen it at Marvel way too many times where someone will get an idea. Let's do this book. That's wonderful. Let's get started. They'll see the first page, get overly excited, and then next thing you know it, the book is already late when it was invented a week ago.
Yeah.
And seen that way too many times. So
they can move up the publishing date. You can have all the time in the world and your book's on time, and then they move up the publishing date by a month, and all of a sudden you're late. You're like, I've seen that happen so many times.
I've heard I've heard many stories like that. Watching just YouTube videos of artists talking about how they would start a project, and then next thing you know it, they are late, but they just got the project.
By the way, that $1 million number, I remember, I think the only reason I know that is because they sent out a memo that said, "Hey, stop overnighting everything. If it doesn't need to be overnighted, our bill is too high. We paid $1 million."
Yeah.
FedEx.
Even 10 years ago, we used to have a production team that handled the final files,
Right.
and they would send somebody to the printer to check the print run.
Okay.
Because we stopped having proofs,
Right.
but they would go to check the print run, and even that time we knew that if you had a print run of 15,000 copies, we knew that we actually had to print 30,000 because half of those would be trashed right off the printers.
Wow.
But we had somebody, and I don't know if the big magazine publishers still do that.
Yeah, because the printers are often far away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So.
I do recall there have been times where both Dan Carr and Johnny Green had to take a trip.
Yeah, they've taken trips just to
They
see how
took
it's
trips
done.
to go
Right.
see the printers
Yeah.
and stuff like that, especially if they ever move over to a newer printer.
Right.
There would be a trip that would happen. And those guys were also production guys at Marvel, who I just named.
Right.
So, yeah, occasionally there would be a trip to the printers.
But there wasn't, not for every print run.
No, not at all. It would be like, I think I want to say there was at least an annual trip, and I don't know if it was always to the same
I
printers
only
or they went to
remember them
next one.
going once.
I remember at least
But
3
I don't
trips,
know.
but
I
I was
wasn't
there.
going, so maybe I don't
Yeah,
remember.
that's the thing. It was just like one of those things. It's like, oh, where's such and such? It's like, oh, they're on a trip to the printers. So I always
Yeah.
thought that was a regular thing because
Yeah.
I remember at least definitely 2 trips that I
Okay.
recall going on. Now, granted, these are 2 trips through the course of my 10 years at Marvel, so it might
Yeah.
have been an early trip and a trip right before I went.
Huh.
And I remember that the production team had to go at ungodly hours, because if you were doing a monthly, I don't even have an idea at what time of the day it was printed, because the monthly, we usually had to finish it about a week before it went on sale. And we know that when it gets printed, it gets distributed. Luckily, here in Portugal, all the big newspaper magazine publishers used one printer and one distributor, and they were all within a 20-mile radius of each other, so it was easy to get it done. But when I was doing the weekly, we sent a guy there at like starting midnight.
Huh.
We would finally finish, and then the other guy would go.
Wow. Huh. Did you make it to the comic shop this week, Wilson?
As a matter of fact, I did, and only came out with only 2 comic books. I didn't really have time because I was doing other stuff that day, so I didn't have time to look around real quick. I did pick up 2 comic books: My Amazing Spider-Man issue number 44 and Savage Dragon number 268. So that's
Okay.
what was waiting. Those are the 2 books that were waiting for me at the comic book shops. I didn't even get to read them. I got them home. It was raining that day. I was happy that they bag and board it when you do the orders, because the bag itself did not make it, and so I did not get to read it. But it's still part of that Gang War series,
Yep.
and
You get that nice map.
I'm looking forward to it. Let's see if they have the map. Page 1 opens with a fighting shot. A 2-page spread, very classic.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to the that splash of the what's going on and who worked on it.
Credits and the original Amazing Spider-Man logo.
Yep. And then we get to the map.
There we go. The map.
So
It's a map book now.
Map of New York City and who owns what. And it looks like Madame Mystique has been taken over. So it looks like she might be winning the gang war.
Huh.
That map makes absolutely no sense. Why would the beetle? Why would the beetle become a? In which beetle is that?
This is the Beetle is the daughter of the gang member Tombstone, who was a Robbie Robinson villain because Robbie and Tombstone grew up together.
Yeah.
He came out in pages of Spectacular Spider-Man in those
Where'd
pages.
she get a beetle armor?
You can well, is Marvel New York City. You could probably buy them on every other corner. I do not. I do not know, unfortunately, the origin of the Beetle of this
Okay,
particular
the
book.
beetle had money to build one set of armor, and it took him a while to rebuild it because the original armor is the one that had the stickers. Yeah, it was ridiculous. But that armor got destroyed. And then somebody built one for the Ringer's widow. That was in after Nicieza took over Thunderbolts from Music. I have those stories. But she got killed by Graviton. And after that, I think there was a new Beetle sometimes later, but I really have a hard time understanding why somebody connected to Tombstone and to the Magia would have access to the Beetle's technology.
I do not know. I haven't read those particular issues. So for me, the Beetle is to me, the Beetle is a brand new character. I do not know. She's probably been around for 10 years. I do not know her origin or her story. And so far, the issues of Gang War that I've read, she's only been mentioned as threat. I haven't actually read any issues with her in it.
Okay. Damien, there's no point. The things I would care about as an editor, I would have somebody above me saying, "Who cares about that?"
Yep.
And if I have somebody above me saying, "Who cares about that?" I don't care either.
Sleepy wants you as editor at Marvel.
No, but I'm not going. I'm not interested in being an editor. If I become a trillionaire, I'll buy Marvel from Disney.
He wants to be the owner.
Yes.
When
I become a trillionaire.
I only got 6 comics at my comic shop this week, and I pulled nothing off the shelf. This is the first week I can remember that there was nothing on the shelf that interested me. But I already had 6 comics in my pile, so no big deal. And I got a 7th in the mail. And the 7th was, if you remember, I got a subscription from the publisher of The Sickness. This is the one, since I was one of the first 200 people, I got all 5 covers of #1. Somehow that motivated me to get the subscription. Then I got the 5 covers. I'm like, oh, these are cool. What do I do with 5 of the same comic now?
You're on the way of being there thousands.
But this is a real creepy comic. I mean, it is. Let me show you a little. What's her name? Jenna Cha on the art. The same woman who drew Black Stars Above. She writes it along with Lonnie Nadler, who's also on Black Stars. Oh, I just noticed there's one splash of color right there, red on that knife. I didn't even notice that as I read it. But I'll read you the description on the back. If you're feeling sick, the man may be following you. 1945. There's 2 storylines in this. 1945. Daniel's friends urge him to confront his mysterious stalker. However, not all of them are convinced Daniel's symptoms are real, leading to a naive plan with horrifying consequences. 1955. George faces a dead end in his research. Despite his best efforts to put the bizarre case of the murderous housewife behind him, a sense of personal duty worms through his brain. Unbeknownst to him, a new stage of discovery is about to unfold. So the basic story, I found the first story was interesting because when they mentioned if you're feeling sick, the man may be following you. That's the 1945 story. It's about this teen kid who, whatever this sickness is, makes him hallucinate. So like throughout the comic, he's just seeing worms crawl on things. He's seeing people's faces as melting. So he's got like 3 or 4 buddies. They're all about, I don't know, 12 years old, who he's told this to and they believe him. So they're trying to get him to confront the man who's been following him, even though they can't see him. So there's this weird scene where like, we got a plan. So, and it turns out, if he gets upset, the man shows up. So their plan was they were all going to bust on him. And the man's going to show up, and they gave him a bat to hit the man. And it's just this crazy plan that just didn't really. But like, there's an example of, there's one of his friends, and that's just in the middle of the meal. That's just how he sees his face. So the more upset he gets, the more hallucinations he sees, and the more. And the other story was this doctor who was trying to figure out in 1955, the woman had this same thing happen to her, and she ended up burning down to kill whoever this man was. She ended up burning down her house accidentally and killing her husband and child, and she ended up in the madhouse. So it's just this bizarre story. I mean, I don't even know where. I think there's only one issue left of it, and I don't know where it's going. Because it's just this bizarre, weird, disquieting story, and everything about, like, they're just, here he is with his friends having a normal. They're talking about the plan, and there's just like a worm climbing on his bottle of soda, which isn't really there. It's all his hallucinations. So I've been enjoying this one thoroughly, but it's hard to describe. It's just creepy. It's really not that much about the plot. It's just about the creepiness. So it's been good stuff, The Sickness.
That you're subscribed to it, so you get it directly through the mail.
I get it directly through the mail.
Monthly?
Yeah, whenever it comes out. That's the one that I think the first issue that they were having problems mailing it. And the second issue came really late. And then they got a service to mail it all out. So the third and the fourth issue came out pretty well. Like I get an email that tells me, oh, we're mailing these out like Monday. So they should be to you soon. Because I think it was in the comic shop maybe a week before I got this issue. So they don't quite have this subscription thing down yet, which I understand because it's hard to do a subscription. You have to hire people to do it.
Yeah.
And that drives up the cost of the comic. So.
Or you can do it yourself.
Or you can do it yourself, which I think the writer and artist were doing at the beginning. But then they had no time to do it. Like, kind of. It's like people who do Kickstarters. They underestimate how much time it's going to take them to mail everything out.
Or what is it going to cost to mail it, because so much time passes between the end of the Kickstarter and before they get it published and printed.
Right.
The mail has, many of times I've watched people ends up underestimating the cost of mailing the items, the time it takes, and sometimes in between it, the price of mailing goes up.
Right.
And so it's like one of those things that even when you plan to build it in, it could change on you overnight.
Right. And they always underestimate worldwide shipping because that changes.
Yeah.
That changes with currency fluctuations. Every Kickstarter is like, oh my goodness. Worldwide shipping is very difficult. Which is why, I like PDFs sometimes. I think a couple of the things I backed on Kickstarter for $9 or $10 were from England.
Right.
I'd rather get the PDF of it. And I
made a few PDFs for Kickstarters.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things where, and sometimes again, even doing the PDFs, I find that every now and then a mistake will go through, and we would notice it in the PDF there right before we go to print. And it's like, well, those PDFs are gone, so not much else we can do. Those are probably technically collectors because that's not what's going to be in the print.
Ever tell you about the giant PDFs I made for Bad Idea? They were as part of one of their Kickstarters. They wanted to do a sort of high res PDF for the fans. You could get, that's one of the things you could get was because usually when you send out a PDF, it's not low res, but it's 150, 200 DPI. They're like, we want to give them the PDFs you can print from, which are 300 to 450, and they're like, and they were like, I want to send out some PDFs without any compression on them. I'm like, I don't think you want to do that,
Right?
Because PDFs without compression on them are gigantic,
Right.
and I think the final PDF was 12 gigabytes. And it was like, oh, we can't do that. The limit to this, service they were sending to Kickstarter or whatever was like 2 gigabytes per document. I was like, I know,
Right.
like we'll put some compression on it, but I know no compression isn't gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah. Because even if you have a designated area to download it from,
yeah, that's a lot of.
That is a lot for someone who's at home downloading. That's
or reading it on their phone.
Yeah.
12 gigabytes. I was like, no, I don't think you mean no compression. Sure enough, they didn't. They didn't mean that. But that happens sometimes. People just don't know.
Yeah.
Like, why would they? But we ended up sending out high res files. They could actually send if they wanted to print their own Bad Idea books, they could send those PDFs to the printer. They were high res. Like, okay.
Yeah, it makes sense because people will get sticker shock when they find out how much it costs to print comic book.
Oh yeah, nobody's gonna actually print their own.
No, they can't because you have minimum orders, and the
Right.
cost of a minimum order of 1,000 copies of this book. I did once have someone, when I was sending a PDF out, we were at a convention. And I said, well, we could send you a PDF. It's a PDF. Aren't you afraid that someone's going to print out copies of your books and sell them? And it's like, yeah, if someone can print out my own books and sell them for me, go right ahead. I'm having a hard time selling the books myself. If you can sell my book, more power to you.
It ain't Spider-Man. It doesn't sell itself.
Exactly. It's like, good luck with that. You let me know how it goes for you.
I tried selling 10 copies and they all cost $100.
The first issue I got this week was Torpedo 1972.
And I never actually read that Torpedo. I've read all the other Torpedo, the original one, but not the 1972.
From the artist of 100 Bullets. Eduardo Rizzo, and the writer is Enrique Sanchez Abuli.
Yeah, I've met Sanchez Abuli. He's been a regular guest on and off of Portuguese conventions because he lives in northern Spain.
This Torpedo is an old guy,
right? Oh, of course, yeah. The original set in the 30s.
Yeah, this is set. So he's 60, I think they mentioned, and he's not a good guy.
No, he's not.
So is Torpedo a code name or something? I know nothing of it.
It's a street name.
Yeah. He's a mob assassin of some kind.
Yeah.
And in this story is about a journalist wants to solve a 30-year-old murder. A mob murder. So he goes and asks these sons of mobsters who killed their dad. And they send him to the Torpedo, who's like an old man now and kind of retired. And he just starts telling the guy, I'll give you money for I'll give you money. You give me money, I'll tell you the names. And he's a bad guy, this Torpedo too. And the journalist has a girlfriend who's his photographer. And she wants to take pictures of the Torpedo for the thing. He ends up just sexually assaulting her. and he just doesn't care at her. I mean, he's got his bad guy bona fides established in this first issue pretty quickly, and then the story is the journalist gets pissed off that he assaulted his girlfriend, so he writes that in his article that the torpedo killed this gangster. So now Torpedo's after him, and he's got to make peace with the sons of the gangster or something. So I think that's got to be it was a real kind of brutal story. Let's see. Sleepy Reader says that Torpedo was hard for me to digest. Didn't know how to parse the whole rape scenario. Yeah.
That's in character for Torpedo.
Yeah.
It's kind of established that he actually hates women, and he can only and every time they show sex scenes in the original stories, he's being rough. He's completely devoid of passion when he has sex with them. Like Wally Wood's canon. When he has sex, but if you're also familiar with Torpedo's origin, you'll find the reason for it, because when he was born in Sicily, he was the product of incestual rape between his mother and her father, and the man who he thinks is his father. He's not as incapable of having children, but is a typical Sicilian who doesn't work much. And so when Torpedo goes to America with the benediction of the local mob boss, who also had sex with his mother after he was born, he's already not right in the head.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely not right in the head. The woman was almost like an Annie Fanny character, and then she kind of moved on from it really quickly too, and then they moved on from it in the story too. So it was a strange scene for something so consequential. It was just kind of like a plot point rather than consequential. So we'll see, what they do.
Yes.
The artwork was really nice.
Yeah, Sanchez Abuli does that a lot with Torpedo, because the stories are usually short stories.
Oh, okay.
About 10 pages. And there's a certain degree of humor to them. It's the stories are a bit farcical.
Okay.
So anything that happens in them, they make sense in the context of the universe, and you end up, when you are reading, you disconnect from any emotional aspects because there are none in the stories.
Ah, okay.
No, but
she didn't seem particularly emotional about it. She was just like,
the characters are
did this to me.
Yeah, they're very animalistic in their behaviors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did love the art. Fantastic character expressions. Oh yeah,
right. Mm-hmm. Right.
That's interesting. Yeah, I remember reading some of the. I think I saw some of the Alex Toth Torpedo way back when, but that was
he only did 2 episodes and he was replaced by Jordi Bernet. Jordi Bernet was also is no longer active, but he's still around. So he also lives in northern Spain. He's from Catalonia, and so it was a good choice to continue the story, because the way he draws the stories, he actually ends up having the universe that the stories are set in be a little more 3-dimensional than what Alex Toth did, because Alex Toth was purposely doing it cartoony in an EC-like manner. And Bernet being also Spanish, he has that European farcical vibe that I was talking about, a bit like that Italian movie director who does those stories set in ancient Greece. What was the guy's name?
I don't know him.
Sleepy might know who I'm talking about. There was an Italian movie director who did I think he did an adaptation of Pygmalion.
Yeah.
Did an adaptation of Pygmalion, I think, and so it's in that vein. Things happen, and they only make sense in the context of the story, but not if you bring them out to the real world.
I finished my 4th art monster this week. This is hold on, let me get it bigger for you.
Ooh, I like
this
it
is the
has
Ming
weapons.
Na Wen character
Oh.
from, let's get this light in here, from The Mandalorian. So she's got a gun. Weird bobblehead too. But I finally figured out what was influencing me to do these. Because they're starting to get scary. There's 3 of them lined up over there and they're looking down on me. And especially when I start to turn the lights off at night, I'm like, ooh, they startle me sometimes with those weird green, toothy, broken grins and 3 eyes. Back when I was in college, one of my teachers, Emilio Cruz, took us to the Brooklyn Museum one day. This is when was this? Spring of '88, I think it was, to see a show on the art of New Ireland. And New Ireland is an island in the South Pacific, so named because some European explorer named another island New England way back in the day. And this island was sort of where Ireland was in relation to England, so they named it New Ireland. That's right, Satyricon. Do you know the director's name? There we go. I'm drawing a blank now. Satyricon. Oh, that's his other one. But here's a book on the art of New Ireland. But there was but as Emilio was telling us about the art of New Ireland, there was one statue that really caught my eye. About a foot high and this little demon screaming at you. And he was talking about how they would make these scary little statues to keep in their homes. And that was what was to remind you to be sort of morally straight, on the right path. Because if you weren't, these little monsters awaited you. And this is a book from the St. Louis Museum. I guess there was a show in New Ireland also in 2007 at the St. Louis Museum. I got this in like 2010. And it's, the catalog book of all the stuff. And they don't have that exact statue in there. But they've got some similar scary little ones to it. Let's see, where is it? I have a bookmark in it. There's one of them. The one I had was Crouching and Screaming. The one I saw, so. But here are some of their scary little statues. So I think I'm doing those. There's a couple of. I think subconsciously I was doing those, painting those pops, sort of trying to make my own scary little monster statues. That's what was in my subconscious. As I was making those, and there's some painted skulls too, just for the heck of it. But that's what comes to mind now when I see these lined up at night, sort of looking at me. I'm like, ooh, those are scary little
through your
monsters.
art trauma.
Yeah. But I got a new one. Who did I get today? Funny, I notice on Amazon the prices on these fluctuate too. Who came? America Chavez from the Doctor Strange. I want to paint her too. But I noticed like some of it, I've been paying like $3 a piece for these ones. And I noticed the price fluctuates up to like $6 or $7. and I guess back down to $3. I guess people have different prices on them or something, but like the ones I bought for $3 now are $6, and there's other ones for $3. So I'm like, wonder who's pricing really cheap pops. I don't know.
They're probably putting it up at a cheap price. You buy it, and they're thinking, "Oh, there's a demand for it." The price goes up. No
And
one
nobody
buys them.
buys
They go
it.
back down, and you buy them again.
Sleepy says it was so long ago that I saw it. I can't remember which Italian director made the film.
That movie's from the 70s, and it's not something that pops up on TV that often. So
Sleepy says, I love how you tap into your subconscious, Jay. Yeah, that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to tap into my subconscious and see what kind of images I can come up with. By the way, I also I bought a new coat, which is coming tomorrow. Because you all know I painted that I got a new duster back in December, and I've been wearing that this winter. But since it's been getting warmer out, I've been wearing my lighter coat. And I get a little sad when I put on my bland, boring lighter coat. So I'm like, why don't I try to get a new coat and a lighter coat and paint that? So, back in the day, we used to paint our jean jackets. I think it's Jared that's at least the low end pop market I'm driving. We used to paint our jean jackets, and I got a couple of painted jean jackets from back in my college days in there. I was thinking about maybe I can repaint one of them. One of them I could paint more stuff on. And I was like, let me look. 'Cause I'm not really a jean jacket guy anymore. I wear sports coats most of the time. Most of my light coats are sports coats. I like those. So I was looking for jean jackets on Amazon, and I ran into a denim blazer. So a denim
Okay.
sports coat, which was pretty cool looking. I'm like, ooh, I can paint on that.
how much did it cost?
So I ordered it. It was like $50. Basically, you're wearing your subconscious on those coats. I am. Especially the eyes freak people out too. That's like wearing their own subconscious on their coats. But
Right.
what I did was, since they had pictures of the coats front and back, I'm like, oh, I can use those, to figure out the size and do my sketches on. And what was funny too, I saw one of my former students just this week, and I was wearing the duster. She hadn't seen it before. She's like, "Oh, that's so cool!" And I'm showing it to her. She's like, "Oh, I want to paint something like that." She's like, "How long did it take you to paint?" And I told her, and I'm like, but I had the advantage of I've got thousands of drawings, so I didn't have to come up with a concept for the coat. I just mined the thousands of drawings that I was mining my subconscious of drawings, my collection of subconscious drawings, and picked the ones I wanted and sort of composed it into the coat. So that's what I was doing for this new coat. So this is what's going on I have things for the front too, but I've drawn out what's going on the back of the coat. So this is the top of the back. We're going to have those two people on the top, and then it's slowly going to go down, and this is going to be the bottom of the coat. And of course, it's all going to be in color. I have to figure out the colors still. But that's going to go on the back of the coat, the back of the blazer. And I was figuring out what's going on the front of the blazer, because there's also two, pockets on a blazer. So I was going to paint two big art insects on those pockets. I did these drawings like 20 years ago of like wasps and stuff, only sort of done like a Mondrian wasp. It's got blocks of color in it. So I think I'm going to put those on the pockets. And I'm figuring out, what I want if I want to put eyes, I might put big faces right there so it's been fun. I was like, I'm gonna have a nice short coat with paintings on it, so I don't feel sad putting my big coat away for the winter. I was like, oh, I gotta wear my boring coat.
No, it doesn't have to be boring. And if you ever decide to design a mug, you could put one insect on that mug so it matches your coat.
Rink as I wear the coat. I'm listening to talk about how you need lighter jackets while I'm in a 3-day snowstorm that stopped the whole week. Nuts to your lighter coat weather. That's a cool image, though. I know what you mean. But it's also when I'm wearing that coat, people actually talk to me. Like on the train, like commuting. Like no one ever talks to anyone commuting. But wearing that coat, people are like, "Oh wow, cool coat! I really like that. Can I look at it?" Oh sure. Makes the commute a little more interesting.
Well, they got to ask because it's New York. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to turn to them and say, "What are you looking at, buddy?"
And the homeless dudes all love the coat.
And he turn around and go, "What coat?"
All love the coat. Guys just hanging out on the street, they love the coat. Let's see, what other comic did I get this week? Oh, we'll get Under Heist. There's another David Lapham one. And then this issue kind of changed, and it's a color David Lapham one. You don't usually see that. He even like he's been doing stuff for Bad Idea for the last couple of years, and even that stuff is all black and white. Not always. They've colored some of it over time. But kind of the whole concept of this changed with this issue. Because the reason it's called Under Heist is last issue, there are these, I thought it took place in LA, but this issue seems to take place in New York City, so I'm a little confused. Or at least I remember it taking place in LA, but I guess it takes place in New York because they mentioned some New York neighborhood where I'm like, oh, is this New York? And that certainly looks more like New York than LA. I don't think there's brownstones in LA. Yeah, there's another brownstone. But these guys all work underground. They're sewer workers. And one guy specifically is their leader. And he overheard a crew of criminals planning a heist. They were going to use this underground tunnels to tunnel into a bank and steal a bunch of money. So he got his buddies together and it was like, hey, how about we rip off these guys? We'll wait till they steal all the money, and then when they're don't have such a close eye on it, we'll steal it. So that was issue 1. Except at the end of issue 1, things went wrong. Of course, it's a David Lapham story. It's a crime story. Things go wrong. So in this issue, they're trying to overcome the things that went wrong. So the guy meets up with his girlfriend his ex-girlfriend who signed him. He's trying to get away. He's shot. She brings him to this underworld doctor to patch him up. He's getting patched up, and she's at one point, they're having this whole discussion in the doctor's office, arguing about stuff. Then at one point, they're both kind of stunned because his wound is gone. He's like, well, it was just a small wound anyway. She said, what are you talking about? That's crazy. They end up splitting up and running away. They're still trying to figure out what's going on. He's trying to contact the other guys in the heist. One of them's disappeared. He goes and finds the one, and the cops are all over like the crime scene. He tries to find the one guy who's dead on the ground. He to hide the body of his buddy, his cousin even. He throws him down this hole in the sewer, but then he hears him calling out to him, you son of a bitch, you pull. And he's like, what the hell's going on? He runs away. He goes to find the second guy, and he sees him through the window hanged from he hung himself from the ceiling fan. So he gets in there, he pulls him down from the ceiling fan. He's all upset goes into the bathroom to clean up, and he hears the guy out in the other room. And he goes out in the other room, and the guy's alive. And he's like, what the hell's going on? And they're talking about the heist, what went on here, what went on here. And eventually the guy's like, but the bad guys grabbed me, and I think they killed me. I think I'm dead under the bed. And the main guy looks under the bed, and there's no one there. He's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I think we might be ghosts. So they might be ghosts, this second issue. We don't know. We still don't know. So this, and then like the main guy leaves this guy's apartment, and as he leaves, we see under the bed the guy's dead body. And we're like, and it just gets, so all these guys might be ghosts. We're not sure. They're not sure. It's a really sort of weird supernatural twist to a David Lapham crime story in issue 2. Should say David and Maria Lapham now, because she's helping him write this stuff. She's credited as one of the writers. So maybe this was her influence. I assume Maria Lapham is his wife. But good issue. It really took a sort of supernatural twist I wasn't expecting, and maybe they all died at the end of issue 1 and they're all ghosts. Who knows? We'll find out. Does Lapham stuff make it over to Portugal?
No.
No, that's too bad.
Even those of us who read stuff in the original English, David Lapham's not a very popular artist. So
Stray Bullets is good stuff if you ever get a chance to read it.
Yeah, but Stray Bullets isn't new, so
yeah,
people might not know it exists. and it's always been a cult hit, and a minor cult hit. It's never been popular. So
right,
if there isn't somebody telling his friends how good it is, people will forget, even if somebody was interested back then.
Here's a question I have for Paulo. What's the difference between the name Costa and the name Acosta?
The name Acosta does not exist in Portuguese, but they have only in Spanish. But I think it has the same root. The
same root, except Acosta is Spanish and Costa is Portuguese.
They have Costa in Spain and in Italy.
Okay, they just don't have Acosta in Portugal.
Right.
Interesting. I just ran into someone named Acosta this week, so I was like, that's Paulo's last name. No, it's not. There's something off about it. And it took me a minute to go, no, his last name is Costa. There's no A on it. Let me check my notes for this week. The Dragon Ball Z guy died.
Yes.
Yeah, last night.
That's a very weird way to put it. The Dragon Ball Z guy.
I don't know his name.
Akira Toriyama.
Okay. I didn't, when I was writing the note, was like the day after I heard he died, and I didn't feel like looking up his name.
The thing is, everybody, Dragon Ball only got here in the 90s. Right. But they were, because of it, they were able to show all the episodes back to back every day. And everybody, I didn't really like it the first time I saw it, and I still don't. But everybody in high school insisted on telling everybody else about the episode, even though everyone else saw it.
That was Marvel in the early 2000s. 40th Street Marvel. That's why, to this day, I've got I've never seen it, but I've got a prejudice against Dragon Ball Z. Because I had to listen to so many boring conversations about Dragon Ball Z.
And it's because of that. It's because of that I have that I've never been willing to try Japanese comics.
It was, who was it? I think it was Chris Girusso and Jacob Chabot. There was probably Paul Tutrone, right? It's Tutrone, the last. And maybe one other, but I can't remember who. But it was every day was a new Dragon Ball Z conversation about who could beat who up. Because that's what Dragon Ball Z was about. Who could beat who up.
Yeah.
And Goku could beat he could beat this. Can this bike beat this guy? Can this bike beat? It was endless conversations about who could beat
it was
who up.
That thing was WWF, because if you got beat by the heel, you went training, and when you came back, you could beat the crap out of the heel.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a WWF promo.
You're right. That was the same WWF conversations from the early '90s that drove me crazy. That when our friend Bunch had to put a no WWF talk around him rule in the bullpen because he sat next to Dave Sharp, letterer Dave Sharp, who was a big wrestling fan, and every wrestling fan in the place would come over and talk to Dave Sharp about wrestling the next day. And Bunch would have to hear the same conversation 4 times in a row. Finally, he went, no more wrestling talk when you're sitting there. You cannot do it. Toriyama is dead.
Yeah. Can you believe it?
He is.
See, everybody else around here loves it. And I never cared for it. The thing is, the dubbing team that he got for the Portuguese version treated it like it was a joke, and so the voices were terrible. Not that I think the original ones are that much better, but
SBPT says in Portugal during one summer the country stopped to see one of the big matches. Beaches were empty when Goku finally beat Cell.
And by that stage, Dragon Ball Z had already peaked, because when Cell showed up and the other androids, the storyline did not seem as interesting as the big fight between Goku and Vegeta in Planet Namek. Also, they had this tendency to turn all the villains into good guys, like they were Venom or something. So Piccolo is the bad guy from Dragon Ball, and he becomes Goku's friend. Then Vegeta comes from Planet Namek with the other Saiyan to conquer Earth, and they meet and find Goku and find out that he's from their home planet as well. And then Goku fights Vegeta, but then Vegeta becomes his friend. And then there's Boo, and Boo also becomes his friend. And then there's I don't know what happens to Cell, and then Dragon Ball, by the time Dragon Ball GT showed up, everyone who had become an adult. Yeah, actually, I didn't go to the beach because I don't go to the beach.
Costo went to the beach that day.
I did. Yeah, I don't go to the beach actually. So
since he knows all the information, it sounds more like he was watching it too.
No, everybody told me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that. I understand that. I get that.
Every day, I came up to school and I would always say, so did Planet Namek blow up? Finally blow up? No, not yet. They're still fighting it. How long does it take for a planet to blow up?
About Dragon Ball Z and what happened the day before.
Of course, I was familiar with the concept of time stretching because another anime that was famous here was Benji and Oliver, the one that had soccer as a theme. And okay, so a match is 90 minutes normally in real life, but a match was an entire storyline in Benji and Oliver, Captain Tsubasa. And so I remember the first time the match starts, and then it's like the goal is on the other side of the planet because you can see the curvature of the Earth. And it takes forever to get there. And a 22-minute episode, and they only got through 4 minutes of the match.
Sorry, the voices weren't awful. They were typical Portuguese cliches. Cheesy, but it made it even better. Dragon Ball is known for its filler.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, I've watched a few episodes, and I always thought it was funny because you really just need to catch the episode on Monday and Friday, because in between they were just spending all that time powering up and having flashbacks to what got him into that moment. So it was one of those things where it's like a younger brother watched it a lot. And every now and then I would catch an episode and go, I have no idea what's going on. They're just standing there screaming and energy is coming off of them, but no one's having a fight. And then come Friday, the fight happens. And then it's like, all right. Then come Monday, the fight begins. And then the whole rest of the week is them yelling and powering up. So for me, that's what it felt like. Yeah, just watch it on Monday, Fridays.
And our other comic book death announcement this week isn't an actual death, but Robert Birnbaum said he's dying. He only has months to live.
Yeah.
The comic historian and comic dealer from way back when. He's got stage. I think he said he started out at stage 4.
Yeah.
Prostate cancer.
Basically, they're stopping the chemo because there are no more internal organs left.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it probably has a few months only.
Yep. So he won't get his comic book wars book done.
Well, that's his fault because he was talking about it 25 years ago. In fact, there was a draft available online, and it was on my computer like 5 computers ago. And I had it, and I didn't keep it, unfortunately. So the idea was sound. It was very much focused on distribution. But then he decided he was going to do the complete history of comics distribution in North America. And he once said on Facebook, the first part is always done, but I have to start trimming because I have 800 pages, and I didn't even get to 1938.
Much. Wow.
And that's what happens when you don't have an editor.
Hope someone gives him puts someone in charge of his papers.
Yeah, I hope so.
Someone told me our dubbing was one of Toriyama's favorite. Okay. Basically, it was a soap opera with fighting and yelling.
Oh, yeah, just like a superhero comic.
Yep.
Okay, but now that SBPT is here, I can finally do what we were going to do. So
you're unboxing.
Yes, I got an AOK from SBPT, and I haven't opened it yet. So let's find out what we have here, shall we?
Let's put you on solo so you can show us.
Yes.
There we go.
So let's open this. Let's take the mover. All right.
Sleepy just put in Koch Warehouse is going to close. Whoa.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Whoa.
Wow, look at all this.
I haven't been to the warehouse in over 5 years.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to the warehouse, but I've certainly seen enough videos of it. All right, what do we got there?
We've got Tribute.
Some Cavern X-Men head.
Yeah,
Cochrane looking, yeah.
Yeah. And on the other side, Howard the Duck number one.
Number one.
Yeah.
That was going to be worth $1 million. It's number one.
Yeah, it's a key. I'm gonna not really though.
Minor key. It's a minor.
Yeah, minor. It's a minor
That's
key.
It's the 50th anniversary of Howard because there's a 50 on the cake.
Yeah.
That's 50 years of Howard. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
See,
he's as old as Wolverine.
Yeah.
Wow.
What else do we have here? Oh, these are interesting because these are rare. Brazilian issues of The Incredible Hulk.
Oh wow, Doc
nice.
Samson
From Block, and Block was very famous for using the most garish colors that they could think of.
That was, I always liked that cover, but that green up top looks weird.
Yeah, and here's another one.
Okay.
Yeah, these are nice. I didn't have any blocks in it.
The glob.
The glob, yeah.
Very nice.
Because when I started with Abril, and Abril, they went straight for the Bill Mantlo story, so I never read the stuff from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. You probably have 2 stories inside, 2 or 3 stories inside.
Cool.
Yeah, look at the ad. It's an ad for a geography atlas.
Oh, okay.
Is that the Levant or is that Portugal?
This looks like it's south. No, this is the North American Northwest.
Oh,
Ugh.
okay.
See, here's Vancouver Island.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was the Mediterranean there to the left.
No. But on this one,
Pacific.
on the other one also this one we have southeast England.
Okay.
See, London's here.
Huh. London calling.
This is the mouth of the Thames.
Huh.
This is great. I'm going to read these.
And in the first part, Dragon Ball had a really good story. It said the warehouse is soon to be converted to artist studios, open for another month or two. Okay. Artist studios. That's interesting. London calling. That means they're going to rent them out cheaply to artists for a few years, and then rent them out really expensively a few years after that to other people who want to be in with the artists. That's usually what happens. Artists are the first gentrifiers that make the neighborhood nice.
Yeah, then probably a restaurant that nobody can afford to go to will open.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the restaurant will close in 6 months.
Another comic warehouse store is down. Yeah.
Maybe you should open a comic book store that's also a restaurant.
Let's see. Another comic that picked up this week was The Ribbon Queen, issue number 8 of 8. And I didn't really understand this ending.
Oh, okay.
Because the whole point of this story was the beginning of the story, this woman is killed. And then the people suspected of killing her, sad, yeah. People suspected of killing her got chopped up into these little ribbons. And we found out later that there was sort of this demonic creature, the Ribbon Queen, who took possession of this girl who was killed, her dead body, and was going around getting vengeance on men who, committed violence against women. She was going after this, and she just, their bodies would just turn to ribbons of flesh. It was quite gross. And then, the detective, who's a woman, who's our lead character, she's hanging out with this dead girl, trying to figure out what's going on with this Ribbon Queen and stop her. And they found out this Ribbon Queen is kind of an old spirit. They flashed back to this, I guess it was kind of her origin. And then we find out later on that there was this dude coming to put the Ribbon Queen in her place. These sort of masculine spirits who, when the Ribbon Queen gets out every now and then, they put her back in where she can do no harm. But there's a real sort of male-female animosity going on between whatever those spiritual creatures are. So then the Ribbon Queen wants to make a deal with the female detective to take her, over. And she's like, no, I don't want to be some crazy creature of vengeance. That's nuts. The Ribbon Queen is a nutty demon. So she's like, no. And then they have this visual at the end of the story where, like, when the Ribbon, there's sort of these women floating in water and drowning. And that's the violence being perpetuated. And as they drown, the Ribbon Queen is like, can I come in? And they're like, sure, I'm dying. And that's when the Ribbon Queen can get out and cause havoc. So at the end of this, we find out that the masculine force has inhabited one of the detective's friends. And he's coming, and it was real gross because while he was being inhabited, his body was in ribbons in the tub. So there's a ribbons in the tub thing. I guess when these men inhabit you, I don't even know if they can. Why he's still alive, and he's still alive in the tub in these. I don't even know why he's still alive. But so she's like, no, you can't have. So there's a climatic scene where the masculine demon thing kills the Ribbon Queen in her body, and then he's like, he's trying to make peace with the detective. Somehow she's not making peace with this crazy male demon thing. He ends up trying to kill her, so she lets the Ribbon Queen in, I think, on some level, but I really don't know, because the Ribbon Queen manages to kill the guy and get her out of it, but she's not taken over by the Ribbon Queen. At least she doesn't think she is. And even though she knows the Ribbon Queen helped her out, and then the scene ends with her sort of on her own going, glad the Ribbon Queen's not around. But then the final panel is her with the Ribbon Queen behind her. So it's like, is she possessed by the Ribbon Queen? Is she not? Who's in charge? It just left it kind of all up in the air, I guess, for a sequel. But the whole confrontation between the detective and the like male-ish demon, the male demon, I didn't really understand what was going on. And I didn't really understand what was going on when the Ribbon Queen, I think, took her, because as far as I can tell from the rest of the story, if the Ribbon Queen took over, she was gone. Like the female detective was just gone. It was now the Ribbon Queen. She was living in her body and having a good time getting her revenge. But that didn't happen. So I'm like, huh? And she certainly didn't want the Ribbon Queen inhabiting her, because the Ribbon Queen was uncontrollable and was just killing willy-nilly. So enjoyed the series. Not sure if I understand the ending. That's my take. We'll see if I'll read it a second time before I put it away. I'll see if I understand it better the second time around. Said, you made it live, you rascal. Happy late birthday.
Yeah, that was it's been almost 3 months.
I ignored the Ribbon Queen. That sounds like AWA book I can get behind. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Ribbon Queen, it's a 50-50 deal. Issue 7 of the Ribbon Queen was one of the creepiest comics I've read. Issue 7 made it all worthwhile for me, even though I liked the other ones too. But issue 8 was a bit of a disappointment because I didn't really understand it. And I'm not stupid. I sometimes see Sleepy Reader and some of his critiques. He's like, I just don't know if I was just smart enough, if I was smart enough to understand this or not. I'm always like, Sleepy, you're smart enough to understand. He's not a dumb guy. He's smart enough to understand it. I'm guessing it was a problem with the book. If I don't understand someone, it's probably something was lost in the telling. Now, other people could get it and tell me it. That has happened before too, where I didn't get something and they're like, oh, you missed. That's because it's this and this and this. I'm like, oh, okay. That makes more sense to me now. And sometimes it is something I missed, and sometimes it's just something they intuited that I did that wasn't really there, but it made it make sense if you intuit it that way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be something that got lost because you're reading it monthly. Next time you read, it'll be
could be something like that too. Often things are different me reading them the second time around too.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Hulks were written by Roy Thomas. Sometimes Oddfellow Stewards would understand what I don't. Yeah. Like I always leave it open to I didn't get it because there was something I missed. But it's not because I wasn't smart enough to get it. It could just be that I missed it. Or it wasn't told. Sometimes something that isn't told well doesn't mean everybody doesn't get it. It just means a certain percentage of us don't get it, as opposed to something that's told really clearly and everyone gets.
Well, the Hulk's being written by going back to the Hulks here. The Hulk's being written by Roy Thomas is not a problem at Block. See, if Roy Thomas would write something like Hode's blood, the power of the destroyer, 'tis almost unbearable. I must call forth upon the power of mighty Mjolnir. The translator would say something. Gosh darn it, that dame robot sure is strong. I'm gonna have to hit it hard with my hammer. That's how the translators would work at Block.
As long as Roy Thomas isn't writing about history, we're okay.
Well, Roy Thomas is now considered the official truth, according to a couple of Facebook groups.
Yeah.
So if Roy Thomas says it's true.
I'm telling you that that article, that tribute to Neil Adams that we spent 2 hours here one night talking about, that changed my whole perspective on Roy Thomas. It's like my whole perspective on Roy Thomas is now different than it was before reading his tribute. I now don't trust a word he says. Let's see.
Really.
Sleepy says, I do think clarity in general is a big strong point of comics because of words and pictures. So if things aren't clear, I become a little snippy. The black tape had an open ending. Yeah, I think that was an open ending. I think somehow the Ribbon Queen is in her, but she's in charge. I mean, the detective is in charge. Let me get the right antecedents to my pronouns. But I'm not 100% like the second time I read it through, I'll probably be more. I forget which book it was I was reading through the second time, one of last week's book, and I was like, wow, I'm really enjoying this book the second time through. Because that's when I can notice I'm not so caught up in the plot, and I can notice things I didn't notice the first time through. So that's always fun. Let's see what else is in my notes. I think I got to everything. Dragon Ball Z guy dead. No time for proofs and printing. New Ireland connection, and Bob Birnbaum. Those were my 4 notes for this week that I wanted to make sure I got to. I also got, here's something I was doing today. I got some new watercolors. These are, it's funny. They're Japanese watercolors. I've been buying some, and I always swatch them. And these ones are like, here's some ones let's see, where there's Soho Urban Artist. These are like metallic ones that go over black and white. Oh, I think here are gem color ones I got a while back. So I swatch them over black and white. And I think these were, Gansei Tambi graphite colors. I think these were Gansei Tambi ones too. But it's weird. I had all my watercolor swatches out. But what's weird is, like I said, I got these off of Amazon. They're a Japanese set of 6 pan watercolors, but the entire box is in Japanese. So of course I got out Google Translate and took a photo of it just so I can read what all the names of the colors are too. Peach golden, light gold, golden, red gold, green. Otherwise I just have numbers, no name. But I don't know what the translation was, but it referred to them all as face paints. I'm like, are you supposed to paint with these on your face? Didn't seem like it to me. But for some reason, instead of saying watercolors, the Google translation said face paints. I was like, wonder what that's about, because I don't think these are makeup.
Something was lost in the translation, that's for sure.
I mean, sure, they'll make your face shiny, because these are pretty shiny colors. But I'm going to have to start using, where is it? If you're in my art supply, my last art supply thing, I bought a 9x12 sketchbook of all black paper with no idea what I'm going to do with it. And I have some 5x7 black paper over there too. I'm going to have to start using some of these watercolors on the black paper. I don't know how you draw on black paper though in watercolor, because if you draw on black paper with white and then use watercolor over it, the white's going to show up through the watercolor. I don't know. I'll have to try it out. We'll see.
Yeah, I haven't heard using watercolors on black paper. I've heard of using chalk and using pastels, of course.
Right.
And I know that there was when they did the Batman, the animated series, they were working on black paper to make it, to give it a particular look. I have to get my art of Batman, the animated series, to see what they used to work on the black paper.
I'm gonna make this scary thing stare at you for a while, because she's staring at me. But I like painting the bobbleheads because I don't have to pull the head off, because it's far away from the shoulders. On the regular ones, the head is right on the shoulders, so I got to get the head off. It's New Ireland freaking me out, man.
Especially because it was named by a German guy. Why would a German guy name something after Ireland?
Who was paying for the expedition?
The German Reich, the Second Reich. It was still the Second Reich because it was a German Empire.
Okay.
It says, in the Southwest Pacific, at the end of the 19th and beginning of the 20th centuries, the people of New Ireland, an island group located east of New Guinea, or I guess New Guinea was originally New England, created more than 20,000 works of art, which
there was another group of islands which was New Britain.
New Britain.
Papua New Guinea was called German New Guinea during the colonialism era.
Okay, so it was because of New Britain that New Ireland got its name, and not New Guinea.
Right.
Created more than 20,000 works of art, which they used in a traditional context, then exported to the outside world. In their ceaseless quest for artistic expression, the people living on this remote archipelago created strikingly original pieces, which are astonishing works of art. In order to gain a greater understanding of the creative process that occurred more than 120 years ago. So I guess 120 years ago, all of a sudden, the art of New Ireland and the whole archipelago hit the rest of the world. This tremendous outpouring of art objects, the curators and authors traveled to New Ireland to work with the local people in their villages. They brought with them photographs of the old art now in museum collections, and they recorded an aesthetic experience and ritual context in which they occurred. So I guess they brought the people on New Ireland photographs of the old stuff that they sold 120 years ago.
There's also New Caledonia, which is still a French possession, and Caledonia is the old pre-Saxon name of Scotland.
What makes your big head so hard? You know that song? Caledonia, Caledonia. What makes your big head so hard? That's an old big band.
Not Caledonia. Caledonia.
You
have to pronounce it properly.
Well, in the song they say Caledonia. I assume they're just shortening it. But I notice on these scary monsters too, all the monsters have a penis and boobs. So they're like, both sexes monsters. But lots of cool stuff in this book. I haven't had it out in a while. But I had to pull it out just to show you guys because of that, because of those pops that I've been doing. Oh, there's some more of these small monsters. None of them are screaming though. The one I saw in the Brooklyn Museum was screaming. That made it especially scary. It was probably one of the scariest sculptures I've seen. Let's see. A translation app is wonky. Yeah, it sure is. They used colored art chalk. Did you know the movie Atomic Blonde is based on a graphic novel from Owning Glass? Did someone I remember reading that somewhere, but I never read the graphic novel. I never saw the movie either, but I remember reading the graphic novel the movie was based on a graphic novel, but I still did not see either of them.
I don't remember the graphic novel.
Oh,
I never saw it. But there's,
I was gonna say I never read it, but I'm almost sure I recall the logo for it. And it was like one of those things. It's like, that's a cool name, Atomic Blonde.
Yeah.
I may have watched the movie, but it didn't stick with me.
You can put pretty much any word before blonde, and it's a cool name. Concrete blonde is another one. Yeah. Like any word you put in there. Microphone blonde. Water bottle blonde. It's like, I don't know. Blonde is, you just put it in front of there, and it's an evocative word, blonde.
Right.
The French tobacco industry. The French tobacco industry referred to the generic type of cigarette as a blonde.
Ah,
really? So it was yeah. So it was a Gitan blonde.
Monster blonde. There's a good combo.
Banana blonde.
You got ideas coming left and right here. They're coming so fast. Bill Blazejowski. Hold on. We put mayonnaise right in the tuna can. Wait. We feed mayonnaise to the tuna fish. For those of you who don't remember, Michael Keaton's first role as Bill Blazejowski in all of the name flew out of it. The Henry Winkler movie, Love Brokers. What was the name of that one?
Night Shift.
Night Shift. That was it. Henry Winkler, Michael Keaton in his first role, Shelley Long.
So Cheers. What's worse, jumping a shark or feeding mayo to the tuna?
Feed the mayo right to the tuna.
Mm-hmm. I would say jumping the shark mainly because it gave us that term.
I just know Concrete Blonde Singer became a pop song ghostwriter. Yeah, and Concrete Blonde was a book before it was a band, too. I love the soundtrack, 80 Hits Revisited. Oh, that's Atomic Blonde, yeah. Yeah,
so it's just like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Concrete Blonde was a book I read, I can't remember when, the early 90s. Then I saw it was a band name. I was like, oh, look at that. Pop song ghostwriter. Ah. Dave Stewart. I was just watching a little Eurythmics and Annie Lennox are some of my favorite stuff, and I was just watching a YouTube video on sort of the origin of their hit "Sweet Dreams Are Made of These," and what she and Dave Stewart went through to write that song. And Dave Stewart, after Eurythmics broke up, was a producer and songwriter. Not quite a ghost songwriter. He got credit, but that's what he did. And it's funny how I and everybody else always say the Eurythmics. They even said it, but the actual name is Eurythmics with no the in front of it. And it's like every time like Annie Lennox was talking about Eurythmics, she never used the, but the captions would you put a the in. Because it's tough to say Eurythmics without the the.
No, it isn't.
For Americans.
We talk like that.
In fact, I never refer to the Rolling Stones as the Rolling Stones. They're just Rolling Stones.
Aren't you special?
Yeah.
Hit Goblin says 80s marketing replaced canned tuna with dolphin. The food industry invented reed ribbon slab dolphin way before we did. Canned.
Of course,
Tuna.
but that's not all. I never used the term orchestral maneuvers in the dark.
No, I don't even know the band really. I knew people who were fans of the OMD.
OMD.
But I never really knew them. I may have heard a song or two, but they didn't.
Yeah, and Electric Light Orchestra is ELO.
You know what? I always hear people say ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, is like in every. They have to say it at least once in every sort of documentary that mentions them.
At least they don't call it the ELO Orchestra, because pin number.
Bruce. That's not Bruce. Let's see, what else did I get this week? A very ugly faced woman on the cover of Crave. That is not a pretty face. This is Maria Lovett's book.
Yeah, it's okay. She's a goth chick. She can be at it.
She's got on a bustier and fishnet stockings. That's all she needs.
Mm-hmm.
This is the book that takes place in a college. Tell us what you crave. We make it happen is the tagline of the app. And you put the app on your phone, you tell it what you crave, and it tries to make it happen for you. So of course everybody's hooking up with everybody in the college because of the app, and it's causing chaos. And in this issue, I think this is 5 issues. This is issue 4. We find out it's all a marketing thing, and the students are being tested. The school gave permission to the app company to test out how Crave works at the school. They didn't tell any of the students, whatever, and it's causing chaos among the students. So now I think at the end of this issue, the students are going to do something about it, damn it. But there's adult situations going on in this. And I would say about, you know what? I decided Maria Lovett's art is in the just get it done category for me. I've complained before about how like she's kind of in love with the first, some artists, like the first line they put down never gets changed. And she's got a lot of talent, but I think there's a lot of misses in her drawing as well as hits. But I think that's the just get it. It's the style I call just get it done, where it takes so much to get a comic book done. It takes so much work. You don't get paid a lot of money. So there's especially a lot of indie books. The artists are just getting it done. They're not trying to make it perfect. They're just getting the pages done. And I kind of didn't put her in the category because I assume she's an established European artist. And they really don't fall into that category. But I think she does. She's just getting it done. So, and this is the first actual whole series I've read.
She's pretty fast for European standards. That's why she always has a new book out.
Oh yeah, I don't mean Europeans are somehow faster than Americans. They're not.
No, they're not. Exactly. That's the point.
But that's just they usually take their time.
But she's pretty fast for European. She can get a
right.
And since she also writes her own stories, because the main problem with the European artists is becoming writers.
Yeah,
because they have to come up with an idea. And they're not like old school American artists where they can think up a plot, especially because the editor doesn't let them think up a plot. The story has to make sense. So because the editors are more like book editors.
Like here's one thing she does consistently throughout this that I never liked, and that's when you outline when you've got a black background, so you outline all the figures in white. with a white outline. To me, that's just like a shortcut when the artist doesn't want to take the time to make black meet black. And that's a real skill among artists. When you can make black meet black, you really know what you're doing. And you have to take the time to do it. But since she's in the just get it, if you're in the just get it done mode, you're just putting a white line around it. So, and that's one thing that always annoys me when I'm reading a comic. But like I said, she's just getting it done. But I enjoyed the 4th issue. It was okay. And who was it? It was just Undead Quinn. You can't bring me down in a lot of trailers. Yeah. Tried 1 issue Crave. It was not for me. It was almost not for me. I tried 1 issue, didn't order issue 2, didn't put it on my pull list. But when issue 2 came out, it was a slow week. So I picked it up off the shelf, said I was on the fence after it. It's like I kind of like her work, but I've never really read anything by her. Because every time I kind of look, a lot of her stuff published over here is her European stuff published in the North American format. And it's just too small. That just annoys me. Because they shrink it down and there's a lot of space on the top and the bottom. That just annoys me. So I didn't pick it up. So then I found out, I think it was only a 5-issue mini, and I already had 2 out of the 5 issues. So I was like, all right, I'll get the other 3 and read it. And it's been fine. It's a solid B. I'm not going to tell you got to rush out and read it. And I like that it's an adult comic too. So many even like there's sex going on in it, which I'm fine with. So many American comics, they're so chaste that it just annoys me after a while. I'm like not every comic has to be chaste, okay? But this is the good old US of A, where every comic has to be chaste.
Yeah, it's like when Gore says that when he started reading American Flag, because he said his classmates were shocked to see sex in a comic book.
Yeah,
it's just American Flag. What's the problem with having sex in a scene in American Flag?
I remember people being shocked here commenting on nudity in comics a month or 2 ago. It's like, that's a very Spanish face in Crave. Almodovar would do a great movie from that. Maria Lovett gives off the art school student vibe. Oh, no, she doesn't. She's much more skilled than that. She really knows what she's doing. She's just moving very fast. I would say art school students don't really know what they're doing. So I wouldn't say that's quite the vibe I get from it, but I think I know what you mean. Like I said, there's stuff that's not quite there. Getting it done is a way of saying it. Yeah, get it done. It's just kind of don't think about it that much. Just get it done. I had to go through Maria Lovett's Faithlessness. The book was erotic nightmare fuel. See, that one I stayed away from because who wrote that? That was the 100 Bullets guy. Was that who wrote Faithless? Azzarello? He may have, because I'm not an Azzarello fan, so I think that's why I didn't get to try that book. Or I may have 1 issue of it. I think I bought one of the one of the covers that had to be bagged. I think that was it. Yeah.
Let me check something, because I'm really not sure of something. If Maria Dove creates the her stories first for the French market or the Spanish market, because then there's a difference in the way that the editors work.
I think this is the first one for the American market, just because it's got the American proportions,
right?
For the U.S. And a lot of the other stuff I've seen. Well, actually, no, Faithless was also.
Okay, Maria Llovet, born in Barcelona, 1982. So let's go. She went to comic school. All right, so let's see here. Comic.
Yeah, it was Brian Azzarello. Okay, yeah. I'm not a Brian Azzarello fan, is why I stayed away from Faithless. I just don't like the slang he writes. He writes, especially 100 Bullets, was all written in this street slang, which didn't ring true to me. Not that I would know if it was authentic or not, but it didn't sound authentic to me.
Her books come out in Spain before they're produced in Spain before they come out in France. So the editor is somebody from Norma Editorial. But even so, the fact that there are multiple countries interested in what she's doing means that her work is well thought out during production. So
yeah,
there's no art school vibe there. If there's an art school, if an American reader feels that there's an art school vibe, it's mainly because of the European style storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
But she has a style that's apparently popular enough in the United States. It's not normal that you have a European author getting published so frequently in the United States.
It's going to be 6 issues, by the way. Mm-hmm. I see that in the teeny tiny indicia now. And it's copyright Maria Lovett. Okay. For foreign licensing, contact foreign licensing at imagecomics.com. There you go.
So Image get paid to print and distribute the book, but if they're handling foreign licensing, then they get a bigger cut.
Ah. Love is a stranger in an open.
At least I think they do. It makes sense because it's extra work.
Yeah, I would think so. Well, what do I know about their deals?
Yeah,
nothing, honey.
Let's get Eric Stevenson on and ask him.
Mm-hmm.
You guys never met Eric Stevenson, no?
I've never met him.
No, I don't believe I have.
And these guys might be European. So some of the nicest art I've seen in a while in this. Fabiana Mascolo and Tony with an I, because Fejzula.
Let me see that. The first name you said looks like it's Italian. Okay, so
yeah.
Fabiana Mascolo, that could be Spanish, could be Italian. Tony Fejzula, I think that's Slovenian.
Well, the art is terrific. Let me see if it's got
What's
any
the name
other.
of the book?
Beyond Real. This is the one where and the first issue had the woman and her boyfriend got into some sort of car accident. He died, and she started seeing things and found out she's living in a simulation. And there was something wrong with her. She's, of course, not supposed to know that, where they couldn't just because usually in that case, they just reset her, some automated process. But instead, she started going on, said she was going on this quest to try and get them to fix her boyfriend, since it's a simulation and they wouldn't. But then this issue, she goes into this, I guess it's a simulation space. And it's very geometric but watercolory, because we can see through her. And she meets these other people who are, first she's on her own and doesn't know what, and she's kind of going through this. She can still see the world where she came from, but she can't interact with anybody. Whoa, check out, like, this double page spread is wild. And then people who are recently deceased start seeing her. And then she sees, like, these robots come out and take away the people who are recently deceased. And then these sort of other, like, post-apocalyptic people show up. There they are. who I guess have been hiding out, and they don't know what's going on. They're just kind of hiding out in this weird limbo space, not knowing quite how they got there, but avoiding those robots that are trying to kill them. And some voice is speaking to her, telling her to go upstream, wherever that is. But the art is just, I mean, they just did such a terrific job visualizing this matrix space.
And word balloons that they're using, and those crazy tails on them too.
Yeah, and also the word balloons are a little transparent, so that fits in with it. Since the characters are all transparent, their word balloons are all a little transparent. Their word, and sometimes like here we read from over here, like around this corner. So there were some crazy reading angles too on occasion. But really nice. I mean, this issue, the art in this just really impressed me so much. And it was very much sort of a sort of 3D model space, except all done in watercolor kind of thing. So it looked, more natural than a 3D space would possibly look, because it's all like watercolored rather than computer lined. But yeah, really impressed with this issue.
Looks a bit like Tom Scioli, the art style looks a bit like Tom Scioli.
Not quite as primitively drawn.
Mm-hmm.
It's got more of a clean line style in the figures, with busyness all in the background. It's like none of the figures have rendering in them, but the backgrounds are so busy and they're transparent that any rendering would be lost anyway.
So Fabiana Mascolo is from Italy, but she lives in Iceland.
Oh.
And Tony Faizula is from Serbia and lives in Spain.
And Fabiana is a she, you said?
Yeah.
And Tony is a he?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wouldn't have even known that from their names. Because usually Tony with an I is a woman.
In English.
In
the United States.
And Fabiana isn't even a name I'm familiar with. Male or female. But terrific, terrific book. And who's the writer? Zach Kaplan. He's probably the American of the group.
Yeah. Well, both of their websites mentioned that they work mostly for the American market.
Okay.
So, and the proportions are correct for the page.
Yeah. Good stuff. Definitely good stuff.
Now, I realize that the traffic in Rome is awful, but that's no reason to move to Iceland.
You want to warm yourself on the volcano.
Uh-huh.
Beyond, and it's funny. As I was showing this book off on my,
as long as you have good internet connection.
Yeah. My weekly pull list video, I was like, I cannot remember what this one is about. But then, they had a little description on the back, and I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, Beyond Real? I had no memory of what the first issue was about until I read the description on the back. I went, oh, that's this one. Not the greatest cover, though. I mean, for as lovely as the art inside was, not a very eye-catching cover.
Mm-hmm. Do you have issue number 1 around so we can compare?
Let's see. Should be over here.
I remember you talking about the first issue, but I cannot recall what the cover even had looked like.
First issue cover's a little bit better, but not great.
Right.
Giving you the real world, Matrix world. And the first issue cover had some really nice visualizations of this sort of matrixy world before when it was still mixing with her regular world. So she did. So there's an interesting distinction between that and full Matrix world. Yeah, here's where she goes into full Matrix world, so it changes. But yeah, very nice artwork, I gotta say. What else have they done for the American market?
Let's see.
Does it say?
Let me go back. Okay, so Fabiana Masco, where's her LinkedIn? Station. Hold on a second.
I don't recall their names, so I don't remember what else they could have done.
Magic the Hidden Planeswalker and Firefly brand new verse.
Oh, okay. Some stuff for Boom.
Cyberpunk 2077 at Dark Horse. She was a colorist.
Yeah, I think Fedzula is the colorist, and Mascolo must be the penciler. But in this issue, they're in this stuff, they're really close together. Because they're both listed as artists. Oh, no, there's Jordi Belair and Tony Fezjula are listed as the colorists. There we go.
Fezjula is what?
Some nice stuff.
I think Fezjula is older. Fezjula is older, so he has more stuff.
Okay.
A bunch of stuff pops out, but I don't have a listing, so let me check.
Okay.
Forgotten Blade.
I would if when this art team moves on to another comic, I will definitely buy that other comic because they're really good.
Forgotten Blade with somebody called Zay Chun. Veil at Dark Horse with Greg Rucka. Apparently, he did some artwork for a Spanish film. Okay, what else? Patria. I don't know exactly what that is. Something called Transference at Simon Schuster. Yeah, it's got a lot of work. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, did you see Todd Klein's History of Comic Book Lettering?
I saw the
non-book,
the posting of it, and I went to the website, but I haven't sat there to read because I think he put the whole book on his blog.
He put because he was supposed to have a Simon and Schuster. Reminded me, I can't remember if it was with Simon and Schuster. He signed a deal to write a book on the history of comic book lettering, and he's been doing some stuff about that on his blog too. But that was like in 2017 or something. And the book, as far as he knows, the book is never happening. So he put the book on his, which isn't quite the book; it's more stuff on his website. So if you want a history of comic book, look at the history of comic book lettering, take a look at go over to Todd Klein, put Todd Klein's name in your search engine, and put history of comic book lettering, and you'll be able to find it.
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to format it into an actual book. It was PDF, but it was in multiple pages. Because you can save web pages as PDFs.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes I find that's an easier way to read long things than to be on the internet. Especially when I'm on the train, with no access to the internet.
Yeah, so I did see that. It's like, okay, I definitely have to check that out. So I went to the site to just have it. It's not necessarily open, but I just have it on my history to go back to it and sit there and read through it. And did you see that there was speaking of comic book people, Bunch had put up an old interview that he did about Sonny Chiba
I saw
and
that, but I didn't watch
kung
the
fu
interview.
stuff. It was pretty good.
Okay.
Because what was really good about it, I mean, you know this from Bunch, he was able to sit there and talk about the topic off the top of his head
Oh yeah.
and give you a nice little history about it, and that was pretty cool to see.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Like I said, I saw he posted it, but I didn't have time to check it out. Let's do a reed, rip, and slab. Let's see what I got. I don't feel like new. You know what? Let's go 1979, August, Marvel. Those are some peak years for me. Present arms. Some pretty mediocre comics, but these are mediocre 1970s Marvel comics, but I still like them. We got Spectacular Spider-Man number 36, Incredible Hulk 241, and Thor 289.
I don't believe I read any of them.
I'm sure I read all of them, but I don't remember any of them.
I read Thor, and I remember it.
I would read Spider-Man, Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man, because they had Swarm. I remember him being in the cartoon, and I have an action figure of Swarm. It's a terrible action figure.
I'm laughing because I just noticed the people running from the bees at the bottom of the Spider-Man cover.
I would slab Thor.
That's a John Buscema cover, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it is.
And then I would have to tear the Hulk, and pulling one of the Jared's way of doing it to split it right down the center so I could have Banner on one side and the Hulk on the other side, just because it's calling for it.
Yep.
And I wouldn't want to rip the Hulk, but that cover is asking for it.
And it says half a Hulk is better than none.
That's not true. That Thor is Keith Pollard.
Is it?
It's Keith Pollard. Wow.
Yeah.
That Hulk is the most rippable cover of all times.
Of all time.
That's Keith Pollard imitating John Buscema with his Thor with 1,000 feet apart feet.
Yeah.
The Hulk is Al Milgrom.
The Hulk is Al Milgrom.
Is that Thor a flip of the Thor versus Silver Surfer cover?
It looks a little bit like it. I mean, even that that woman's face up there looks Buscema-ish too.
Maybe Lady Sif or Jane Foster.
Jane Foster.
Oh no, Lady Sif is on the floor.
Pollard did a great Buscema, Sleepy Reader says. Let's see. Sleepy said Rip Hulk, hate that cover, slab Spidey, and reread Thor.
Ooh, the Spidey cover is by Ed Hannigan.
Oh, that's an Ed Hannigan one, huh?
Yeah. And it's inked by Pablo Marcos. I was going to swear it was by Dave Hunt.
Okay. Ed Hannigan. I got to find my Ed Hannigan book. They did a sort of money-raising book for Ed Hannigan. Must be a decade ago now, where they had a lot of his covers and designs in there.
Oh, okay. I've held an original Ed Hannigan cover. We had a Spider-Man cover of his, at Marvel. All I remember about it is that there was a bunch of spiders or insects on the cover. So he liked to do that a lot. Here we have it with bees.
You know what makes a more amazing Pollard take on a Buscema style? That thing is inked by Chick Stone, but it doesn't look like it.
Oh wow!
I mean, you've never seen Chick Stone do all those blacks.
Yeah,
He didn't used to do. He didn't do that over Cap, for example.
Yeah.
Over Kirby on Cap.
and I would.
SBPT. Oh, I have a modern version of Swarm by Mike Wieringo. Were you Wieringo fans? I didn't see his work enough to be a fan.
I was a fan.
He was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
Love Telos.
I think the only Wieringo stuff I read was he did a run with Wade on FF, right?
Yeah.
I read some of that early 2000s. It was all right.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
But like
I would
I
put flamingos on the Rainbow Bridge. And I think I would replace the destroyer with a dolphin and have Thor fighting the dolphin.
See, I'm definitely replacing Jane Foster, Lady Sif, we'll have a floating, disembodied dolphin head behind them.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to read Spider-Man, slab Thor, and rip Hulk, which is a shame because the story is written by Roger Stern. But man, that covers.
See, I'm gonna read the Hulk. Guess I'm gonna slab Spider-Man, and that means I'm gonna have to rip Thor.
That Thor is from the that storyline where they introduce the Kirby the Eternals into the Marvel universe. It starts. That thing goes on for a year and a half. It starts with Grunwald having the idea to bring in the Eternals to the Marvel universe because everything must be in the Marvel universe.
Right.
And that's still pretty early Grunwald. So and I think it's working somebody else because he doesn't stay long. And then Roy Thomas takes over, and Roy Thomas decides that he's going to adapt Richard Wagner opera.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes on and on and on and on.
That is some of the first Thor. That was when Thor was on my well, I shouldn't say pull list because such a thing didn't. I first regularly bought Thor during that era. The run up to 300 was that opera store. Then I think
and then they find somebody else comes in. Ralph Macchio finally comes in to write, and he finishes the
was it him or DeFalco?
The Eternal story.
Oh no, who finished the?
I think it was Ralph Macchio.
I remember it as DeFalco, but I could be wrong. I don't really remember it that distinctly. And yeah, that it's like somebody else wrote Thor 300. It was like after this whole build up for a year, there was a different writer on Thor 300.
Yeah, no, because they needed to wrap up the Celestial storyline, but Roy kept going on and on and on and on. and I have that thing in a trade paperback, and because it's so long, it has to take up 2 trade paperbacks. It's called the Saga. It's called the Eternal Saga. But more than half of the story is filled up with the opera.
Right. I reread that in paperback, in trade paperback. Man, it must be a decade ago now.
And you know what's worse? The recap pages. I stopped. Back then, I used to read the recap pages.
Of course, because you're reading it month to month. The recap page was cool. But when you're not, it's like I can skip it.
You can rip them. You can rip them off. I mean, they begin to annoy me.
I'm gonna have the flamingos standing on that bee that's closest to us in the bottom right. So they're just gonna be riding on a bee. Mm-hmm. And since it's such a big bee, we're cool with it. They're cool with it.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing.
Hannigan was great at covers, never excited by his interiors. He was a better designer, illustrator than he was a cartoonist.
But he was a good writer.
What did he write?
He wrote a lot of things, but you know, he didn't have a long run in anything.
Oh, I don't remember him writing. So,
but there was a thing that he did at DC, a miniseries, Prestige format miniseries.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing you did. I'm going to put the flamingos riding on the
Rainbow
bee.
Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm going to replace Hulk's head with a dolphin, and it's going to be just like the head, regular dolphin on one side and Hulk dolphin on the other.
And Sleepy says, I think Stone was a more generic inker in the 70s when Sinnott was the standard.
I suppose if you want to get called to more often to do the
Yeah.
house style.
Right. SBPT is going to slab Thor. Can't they have slab Thor and read Thor? Rip Hulk. Flamingos coming out of Hulk's nostrils. Tit Goblin. Slab Hulk. Read Spider-Man. Rip Dolphin. Rip Thor and Dolphin the Bees. Sorry, read Spider-Man. There we go. 70s Spider-Man is a must if you want cheesiness. That especially Peter Parker.
Oh yeah.
That
Peter
was
Parker.
That was even cheesier than amazing. But opera is classy. Proves comics can be high tone. Proves comics can be high tone. There we go. I couldn't really rip reader slab those. I was a fetus. Wait, did we go back in time to read rip slab? We went back to my childhood for this read rip and slab.
Yeah, you got to go back to the 70s and wear bell bottoms and platform shoes.
I was born in 66. So I was what, 13, 14 or 12, 13 when these came out?
So you couldn't convince your mom to buy you bell bottoms and platform shoes.
I probably had a subscription to the Hulk at this time, so it came in the mail. And Thor and I would have just started buying Thor off the stands around then. And I bought Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man on and off over the years because it really wasn't very good. Even as a 13-year-old in 1979, I knew mediocre Marvel when I saw it. And DC, don't even get me started. I was buying no DC. I didn't start getting DC regularly till Wolfman and Perez started doing the Teen Titans, and other Marvel guys moved over. So
yeah, but Legion was good back then.
Yeah. When was the
So it was Justice League.
When was the Keith Giffen Legion?
It was around that time.
Yeah. Whoop. I took Paulo off for a second. Wrong thing. Yeah, I started buying the Keith Giffen, Paul Levitt's Legion of Superheroes. I started buying Teen Titans. I started buying the I may have even was the George Perez Legion of Superheroes before the Teen Titans?
Justice League, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've started with that then even. Jim Starlin doing some DC Comics Presents. I think that was that era too. Because one of them, which I didn't have, had the Teen Titans preview in it. So that was even before Teen Titans. So it was those creators who got me to buy DC. Oh, Gil Kane doing Superman. I started buying that then.
And Mike Grell, I think he was just starting on Warlord.
I think he started a few years before, maybe 7. But or maybe I didn't start Warlord until the early 80s because I didn't see it around. I don't know what year Warlord started.
And most Batman was still a Paro.
Yeah.
But I of course didn't know Mike Grell from Marvel, so it was knowing all those guys from Marvel that got me over to the DC stuff. Because why not? Why not follow them there? And let's see, the last book I got this week was the latest issue 13 of Love Everlasting. Love the Chartier art. What's her first name again? It flew out of my head. Elsa. Tom King writing it. And we got a little this is the third issue into the story of the origin of the cowboy who has showed up in some of the earlier issues. This is the comic that's about a woman who's stuck in romance comics.
Do you think Tom King is letting Elsa plot the stories Marvel style?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me because I've never read anything by Tom King that's gone on this long.
Yeah, and by this time we would be expecting Tom King to jump the shark.
Yeah,
that's the expectation. Tom King is going to jump the shark. We just have to know when.
You're right. I haven't read much Tom King, but that's what people say. But I love this art. I think she just does such a terrific job, and her layouts are terrific. Her storytelling is terrific. But in this one, we get a little peek behind the curtain, even though we don't know what's going on, because it turns out the cowboy is also from a romance comic. He's from one of her stories where she was in the romance comic, but he fell in love with her and somehow was so determined to find her, since once she falls in love in the romance comic, she disappears from it and moves to the next story. And sometimes she knows she's in a story, sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes it takes time to figure out for her to figure out she's stuck in some sort of story. And in this issue, we find out that this cowboy somehow has moved into whatever this space is that is romance comic stories. And he even talks to this woman right here. No, I think that's our lead character. There's another woman. Yeah, this blonde woman here is in on whatever this universe is that's got this other woman in romance stories. This woman works for them. She's some cog in the machine that keeps our lead character in the romance story. And there's also a psychiatrist who appeared in one of the romance stories, who's also behind the scenes too. And now the cowboy is behind the scenes. And it's the cowboy's job, when she doesn't fall in love in the romance story, to kill her. So she moves on to the next story. Meanwhile, he's in love with her, but he's done some gruesome things to find her. But since they're all just characters in the story, he doesn't care. And he's kind of a little bent and twisted himself now. So, and this is actually the first time he has to kill her. So they've recruited him, and she, it's like, and there's different levels. Like, this woman who's in there is the one who picked out the guy for her to fall. No, she's the one who she plays her best friend in a lot of these romance stories. And she has to guide the lead character to the dude the lead character is supposed to fall in love with. And she's arguing with her boss, her boss is blaming her for not leading her to the guy well enough. And she's like, if you're going to pick these, you're the one picking these guys. If she doesn't fall in love with them, it's not my fault. It's your fault. So there's like behind the scenes sort of office maneuverings kind of going on. And so, and the climax of the story is, and the cowboy doesn't want to kill her because he's in love with her. So he's at the end, he's just sort of talking to her for some pages. And then at the end, of course, he kills her and she moves on to the skiing romance comics. And we don't always get the story she moves on to at the end. It might start with a completely new story at the beginning of the next one. So this was sort of this is the first time we've gotten any kind of peek behind the scenes at what's going on in this world. So it was kind of interesting. But like I said, I love Elsa Chartier's art. It's just terrific stuff. That's what first drew me to that comic, and it just keeps me reading it. Her stuff is just really good. But weird comic, really weird comic.
Chartier is that art style that's good for early 2000s Vertigo, and adaptable to any genre.
Yeah. Tom King was smart to hook up with Chartier. She was a slightly overlooked talent. Yeah, I remember people on here telling me the work she's done before this, but this is the first time I've seen her stuff, and she's really good. There's no just get it done in her work. She's thinking about every line. You can tell. But yeah, I'm sure she can do, and she can get so much expression out of so few lines. Like just that face right there. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. What?
She's Canadian, right?
Yes, she's Canadian. Someone had told me. And you don't pronounce the R in the end of her name. Probably Ranger Sly told me that.
Yeah, Charretier.
Charretier. The Wrecking Crew. I've just decided to flip back to my old notes from shows past, and I did Spawn announcement. I wonder what that was. Maybe it was that the whole new Spawn universe. All those books are still going, and they're still $3.
Nice.
I gotta say, that's kind of amazing. That he managed to not only get Spawn to sell better, that relaunched a whole line of Spawn stuff, and it's all still going. That is a big task. It helps that he knows a lot of talented people to hire. Have you guys read
any Spawn stuff?
Oh, those Spawn books? Yeah.
When they first came out, I tried them.
Right.
So I remember Spawn, and I remember, of course, Sam and Twitch. And I'm almost sure I picked up one of the medieval Spawn books.
Yeah. I think I picked up all the number ones when they came out a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I think they were limited series at first.
No, the new wave, I mean.
Oh, okay, no, I don't think I've picked up the new wave of them.
There's not, because there's Spawn, there's King Spawn, there's Scorched, and I think there's at least 2 others that I can't think of now. But yeah. Are you going to the French artist presentation at Kingpin Books tomorrow, Paulo?
I am not. The weather's not good for it, and also I want to watch the Formula E race in Brazil.
Yeah, it amazed me. I think it was Wednesday. It was Wednesday. I was coming home from New York, and usually it's a 20-minute drive from my house to the train station. So coming home on Wednesdays, I go to the comic shop after, and the comic shop is like a 5-minute drive from the train station. So usually I get off the train, go to the comic shop, drive home, and it's usually a 20-minute drive from the comic shop to home. This week I was, and usually it's like right at that, I get off the train and out of the comic shop right at around 5 o'clock. So peak rush hour. Plus it was raining out. I could not believe the traffic in this little New York City suburb where it took me 40 minutes for a 20-minute drive. It was just like, whoa, this is crazy. But that's what happens when it rains, and how many people have moved into the county over the last 20 years or so. Even though we've lost our representation in the House of Representatives, because despite the incredible amount of people who have moved around this area, it's still not as massive as people who have moved into other areas. That's always kind of crazy. Pierre Mortel, known for his book Flow.
Yeah, and
Formula E still exists. That's so 90s.
It's only we're only the 10th season. Pierre Martel, known for his book Flow and the meme I showed at the beginning of the show.
I was thinking of Paulo earlier. Remember, I showed you that Ambernick handheld video game system that plays all the ROMs from back in time. I was just looking through the 10,000 games it comes with, or whatever it is. The amount of racing games that I of course have never heard of. It's like, whoo, there's a lot of this racing this year, this formula racing this year, next year, the year after, one more year. I was like, wow, there are a lot of racing games.
No, back in the day,
Yeah.
a game would last for years,
Right.
even though it was based on a specific year, because you could tell from the driver's name that they licensed. I remember the first Formula One game from Microprose. Everyone loved it. It was pretty realistic.
Okay.
It was noisy on a 486. But it was pretty realistic. It followed the 1991 Formula One season. The cars were well painted. The tracks were correct. That was a problem. They didn't license the names of the characters. So the guy who got me the game back when we could still copy floppy disks for everyone else, he asked me to put the correct names on all of the drivers, because you could change the names. And I knew all of the helmets by heart.
I stopped liking video game racing games when they kind of changed them all to make the game about being a good car. So it used to be in a racing game, you'd get a good car and you'd race. Then, I forget I don't even know which games they were, Need for Speed, whatever. You'd start out with a crappy car and you'd have to win races and endlessly update your car. But what always happens was you start with a crappy car, you have to drive and drive and drive and finally win some races and upgrade your car. And once you upgraded it so much, they moved you into the next league. And now you were losing races all the time because you had a crappy car. So you had to drive and drive and drive. So it's like 90% of the time I'm driving a crappy car in this video game.
Yeah.
I want to drive a good car.
No,
and that became standard throughout all games, forever.
Right. There was the outrun type games that were for whoever liked simple racing games, and there was the simulators. Now in the Need for Speed, you do need to move up, and that's boring. But the simulators, you do have to make the car faster, but it's something that you fine tune. Right. So you get good at it, but it doesn't move you up. For example, you are racing in that Formula One season.
Right.
So after you drive in it for the first time, and you get your ass kicked, unless you choose God mode, which allows you to win every race, you can also do that.
Level 0 hero.
Yeah. But if you want to try out the harder settings, you have to get good with it. So you try hard, you get your ass kicked, then you fiddle about it. You notice, even in the 90s, those were still good. You had to mess with the aerodynamics, the brake bias.
Right. That at least makes sense to me.
So
you have to learn about your car.
Yeah. So after a couple of weeks, you do the season again, and now you can win every race, but it's because you got good, and in the end you can become world champion.
I used to call some of my friends, my video game friends, level 0 heroes, because they would get a new game, and at certain point in the 90s, you could set it to whatever hardness level you wanted, just various video games, and they'd set it to level 0 so they could beat the game. I'm like, that's for children. Of course you beat it. And they'd be like, oh yeah, I remember that game. I beat that game. I'm like, you beat it on level 0? That hardly counts. Level 0 heroes. That's what God mode is. It's like I don't want to lose. Yeah, but I gave up like racing, and there was all sorts of other type games like Hydro Thunder. That's one that just came into mind. It was a boat racing game. But once again, you had a crappy boat at the beginning. You had to figure out how to win races in order to get better parts for your boat until you moved up to the next league, and then you have a crappy boat again. It's like,
That was boring.
I don't want to put in all this time to only have a good boat for 20% of my racing time. Listen, one of my all-time favorite racing games, and it's really a racing game, not a snowboarding game, is 1080 snowboarding in for the Nintendo 64. My friends and I used to play that one all the time, racing against one another. It was just such fun. Because like most snowboarding games are kind of about scoring points and doing tricks. This was straight up racing. You had to make it to the bottom of the hill faster than the guy you were racing. And it was just, the sound was real good. The controls were real good. It was just such a fun. That's one of the reasons I want a Nintendo Switch, is to play that game again. And they just ported it over. Let's see. What is he? Oh, wait, electrical cars. I was thinking about other kinds of vehicles. Formula 4. I will check that Formula E, since I'm always trying to convince you to try for an electrical car when you say bye-bye to your vintage one.
No.
No electrical cars for Paulo.
Actually, Formula E is next week. This week it's the second Formula 1 race. It's the Saudi Grand Prix.
I don't mind losing races and simulators if the AI is challenging. Yeah, what I'm not talking about is you're going to lose because you've got a bad. The whole point of the game is to upgrade your. The whole point of your game is not to race. The whole point of your game is to upgrade your car.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll lose.
In the simulators, the point of the game is to race.
Yeah. Simulators are probably not casual enough for me, is it?
Well, you can do short races if you want to. At least and that's why you have the multiple settings. Even if you don't fiddle too much, you do get a decent degree of control, and the tracks are believable. The behavior of the cars is realistic enough, so you can have some fun with some short races.
Yeah.
But if you want to do the full championship, you can.
Yeah, it's always more fun to race against someone. I mean, those days are over for me, of me and my buddies sitting around playing video games. But that was always the most fun. Loser doesn't get to race the next race. Winner stays. Matter of fact, I still have my Edmer loser dollar. I completely forgot. There's a picture of it. We played 1080 snowboarding so much, and it was Ed who actually had the N64. We'd go over to his house, and there was something where he had played it so much. He was like, I can beat the entire game in like 10 minutes or something. We're like, no, you can't. He's like, yes, I can. So we bet him. I think John, my friend John, and I, or Steve and John and I all bet him $1 he couldn't beat it in 10 minutes. I think it was, and he beat it in 12 minutes, but he lost his $1. And I took the $1 and I wrote on it, "This is my Edmer is a loser $1. This proves he's a loser. He said he could beat 1080 snowboarding in 10 minutes, and he couldn't. The loser." And I still have that $1 tucked away in my dictionary. I think I posted it on Facebook once. And I think we had a party to go to that night, and I have a photo of us all standing around holding up our dollars with Ed going. But he did really well. I mean, he did fast. He went fast in that game. It was very competitive, the four of us playing 1080 snowboarding. That's where the no-handed victory came from, too. I invented, of course, because we always had to mock each other as we lost. So there'd be a time when I was so far ahead, I'd like put down the controller and go up in front of the TV and pick some stuff up and go, oh, what's this here? Oh, yeah, no-handed victory. But we should say good evening for the night as I reminisce about old video games here on the Old, Tired, and Stale show. I'm old, Paulo's tired, and Wilson is stale. All right. So hold on. Let's get some balloons going. Or
That's right.
Confetti. Confetti. And then balloons. Oh, fireworks.
Fireworks.
Balloons is one. All right. There's my balloons.
There you go. Exactly.
Everybody have a good week out there.
See ya.
Wilson should freshen up. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.